Peace TV reporters have been active at the UN headquarters since 2010, the age of former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. They are often invited to gather pictures and news about high-level meetings and events at the UN headquarters. We usually report live on the scene the events of dozens of countries, including the US, France, the UK, Israel, Germany, Russia, Egypt, Kuwait, Bulgaria, Ukraine, and Morocco, and the EU at the UN headquarters and their residences in New York. Our news reports have, in part, kept the international community up to date with the work of different governments so that people everywhere will know the great efforts and contributions of the UN to world peace, international affairs, and multilateralism.
Thank you.
One more. Así yo. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andre, Peace TV reporter here at the UN high-level policy briefing on peace, women and security. My name is Andre and this is Peace TV. To ask a question, so how can we contribute to women peace?
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Haben. I'm Eritrean diplomat. To answer your question, it's very key and priority task which need to be implemented by all member states, the participation of women in politics, not only like a symbolic, it needs to be like in ground with the concrete legislatives and action plans. So, and not only also for the participation of women in the hierarchical level, but from the grassroots, empowering the girls from the school, and then way up to the higher education. We need to work on this because this is kind of a gap that needs to be filled by all member states. So this is my answer for your question.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
We are thus delighted to host this high-caliber panel today, together with the Permanent Mission of Colombia and our partners of the Global Network offering Peace Builders and the New York University Center for Global Affairs. And I would like to start already with thanking you very much for this excellent cooperation over the years. So without further ado, I would now like to give the floor over to Mabik, who will moderate us through this event, and you have the floor.
Thank you very much, the DPR Adrian for the introduction, and I join you in thanking our co-organizers and the Permanent Mission of Colombia and the New York University Center for Global Affairs. And without further ado, I would now like to call on Mr. Carlos Ruiz Mesu, Special Representative of the Secretary General and Head of the United Nations Verification Mission in Colombia. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Mesu, ahead of your briefing to the Security Council this afternoon. You have been managing or coordinating the system-wide example both on supporting women's participation in the mission's delivery of its mandate, but also with regards to internal gender parity. I'd like to ask you, what has been the verification mission's role in supporting women's participation in the elaboration of the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security in Colombia, and what will you focus on in its implementation, and what are the key barriers that you anticipate, which I'm sure will be overcome? Over to you.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank to the Swiss Mission for this very important initiative of having this possibility of having this event. I take this event really as a tribute also to particularly to Colombian women. And I'm very pleased to be in this panel with such important women leaders and particularly to my friends, actually Colombian peace builders in the table. As I said, it's clearly a tribute to Colombian women because thinking about 1325 and the National Action Plan, it's really odd. It was really odd and counterintuitive that Colombia hasn't had a national action plan until now, because Colombia really, and Colombian women really embodies the spirit of 1325. It has for many years now. Colombian women and girls have been victims, disproportionately hit by the conflict during 5 decades. And you can see, not only around the table, but in general, in many Colombian corners, really the women being the engine of peace in the country. So, but I think we have to celebrate today then that that Colombia is about to have a 1325 National Action Plan after 23 years. As I said, it's important to remind us that the Colombian women have been really an important factor on the build-up on the 2016 agreement, the historic landmark agreement, where we had a subcommission on gender that also I have to recognize here, Nigeria Renteria, that was part of the delegation in the 2016 peace agreement, and now it's part of the different dialogues that are taking place in Colombia. So the fact that women were part of that build-up, the important aspect of it is that it actually ensured that the agreement had also higher standard in terms of gender provisions in the agreement, more than 120 gender provisions on the peace agreement in 2016. And also, talking about inclusivity, we probably know around the table that the more inclusive an agreement is, the more chances it has to last over time. The fact that we are reaching the 7th year on the peace agreement in Colombia is part of that is because of the inclusivity of the process. The fact that women are organization of women platforms have been defending and pushing for implementation of the agreement, despite the different obstacles and challenges. So it's really about time that finally, and I have to congratulate the Colombian government for pushing, for engaging with civil society in getting the National Action Plan ready. Now, in terms of the contribution, as I said, the UN and the Secretary General obviously is a priority, the Women, Peace and Security agenda. So even from the first day I arrived in Colombia, we started to work along with UN Women in particular and other actors in the country, but UN Women in particular, in terms of engaging with organization of women in the WPS agenda as such. So it was only natural that when the process started, we engage actively in terms of supporting the National Action Plan build-up, the different fora that happened there. But I do have to recognize that the leading entity on that have been UN Women in the country, in supporting the UN efforts. We've been obviously supporting UN Women, and through the UN Women, the different organizations and the government in their endeavors.
Este proceso de paz se suscribió el acuerdo en 2016 en el gobierno del Dr. Juan Manuel Santos. Hoy, en el gobierno del Dr. Gustavo Petro, en el proceso de diálogos de paz con el ELN, tenemos por destacar en relación con la participación de las mujeres y la inclusión del enfoque de género lo siguiente. Primero, la delegación del Gobierno Nacional, designada para el proceso en noviembre de 2022, se integró por 8 delegadas mujeres, el 50% desde el inicio. Adicionalmente, participan de los espacios de la mesa normalmente 3 asesoras mujeres. El proceso de negociación del acuerdo de cese al fuego contó con la participación de 3 delegadas mujeres en los distintos momentos. así como la elaboración de los protocolos correspondientes. Dicho acuerdo y sus protocolos incluyeron de manera expresa la violencia sexual como acto prohibido, la protección de los derechos de las mujeres como propósito del acuerdo, además de la inclusión de las mujeres como población principalmente impactada por el conflicto armado. En el Acuerdo de México, agenda de diálogos que rige todo el proceso, el marco normativo, el desarrollo de este diálogo de paz con el ELN, tanto en el preámbulo como en el punto 1 de participación, quedó expreso el reconocimiento de que la superación del conflicto armado y de la violencia pasa por concitar las voluntades y la participación activa y eficaz de los sectores históricamente excluidos, como las mujeres, la población LGTBIQ+, haciendo un énfasis en las mujeres étnicas, afro e indígenas, quienes
desde hace muchos años, como movimiento de mujeres colombianas, hemos venido incidiendo para que se pueda construir un plan de acción de la resolución 1325 y toda la agenda de mujeres, paz y seguridad sin ninguna respuesta por parte de los anteriores gobiernos. Sin embargo, el trabajo de las organizaciones de mujeres y feministas ha logrado de forma creativa hacer uso de esta resolución de muchas maneras. Jurídicamente, en la incidencia, en los informes entregados año a año a la comunidad internacional e incluida su localización territorial de manera diferencial para su labor que hacemos de construcción de paz. El plan de acción, por tanto, ha sido una deuda histórica con las mujeres colombianas a lo largo de este conflicto de más de 60 años. Por ello recibimos con satisfacción la decisión del Gobierno Nacional de dar inicio a la construcción de este primer plan de acción nacional con una metodología participativa, con enfoque territorial, étnico e interseccional. Hasta el momento se han realizado 6 foros macrorregionales y 9 encuentros poblacionales sectoriales, entre ellos indígenas, afros, raizales, palenqueras, jóvenes, rom, LGBTI, mujeres firmantes de paz, víctimas del conflicto, mujeres privadas de la libertad, mujeres en condiciones de discapacidad y mujeres en zonas de frontera.
Señor embajador Adrian Ori, representante del secretario general y jefe de la misión de verificación de la ONU en Colombia, señor Carlos Luis Monsieur, doctora Ana Marie Dutz, señora Alain France, señora Igeria Rentería, señora Mavi Cabrera Belleza, queridos y queridas asistentes, muy buenas tardes. En octubre de 2022 nos convertimos en el primer gobierno de Colombia que inició la formulación del Plan de Acción Nacional para la implementación de la Agenda de Mujeres, Paz y Seguridad. Escuchamos por primera vez tras más de 2 décadas en 21 espacios de participación traducidos en 6 foros macrorregionales, 7 poblaciones y 7 territoriales y un foro nacional, a más de 1.500 mujeres, quienes desde sus diversidades y a lo largo y ancho del territorio colombiano narraron cómo han sido constructoras de paz, qué desafíos se enfrentan diariamente para la construcción de la agenda de paz y seguridad y qué acciones deben incorporarse para hacer efectiva nuestra anhelada paz total. Es por esto que hoy aquí ante ustedes para compartirles que la paz en Colombia se construye con las mujeres y para las mujeres en sus diversidades. Sabemos que el objetivo de la paz total solo es posible si las mujeres están presentes, si sus voces, sus vivencias y sus experiencias son incorporadas en las negociaciones, en los acuerdos y en la consolidación de las agendas de paz y seguridad, no solo en Colombia, sino en el mundo entero.
NYU is thrilled to be co-sponsoring this event and grateful for the opportunity to have the students present a little bit of the research that we've conducted at the request of the Global Network of Women Peace Builders. We'll answer your question about the institutions in a second. I just wanted to explain that the Global Network of Women Peace Builders regularly poses research questions to our student teams, which we answer and produce reports and analysis for them. And I know what you're thinking. I can anticipate your question. Could NYU Center for Global Affairs do this for you? Yes, we could, if you're interested. But here we're going to talk about a study that we did at their request, which is about the conditions for women's meaningful participation and influence on post-conflict public decision-making and policy implementation, which includes, of course, things like the National Action Plan in Colombia. The full report is available on a QR code on a postcard in front of you. And the students who produce the report one student will be representing the rest, will be presenting the study. To say that the students are ecstatic and honored to be here is an understatement. And so we are very, very grateful. The students are Ali Foot, Jocelyn Enriquez, Sierra Milroy, Pia Madanes, Yuiko Yoshikawa, and Ava Strasser. They're all sitting over there. And I'm happy to introduce Alani Frace, who's going to discuss the Colombia study.
Our conversation with Colombian Women Peace Builders suggested that Colombia's achievement in overcoming barriers to women's participation stems from three key factors. First, the mobilization of women in civil society. Colombia has a huge women's movement. It created the organization Mujeres por la Paz in 2012 to demand women's inclusion. It has mobilized to raise attention to the needs of the most marginalized women and supported electoral candidates such as the current vice president. It has performed a vital function in consistently pressing for the inclusiveness across the entire peace implementation process. Second, the creation and expansion of gender equality legislation. A notable example is the Electoral Code of 2020, which includes a section penalizing violence against women in politics. There are also valuable mechanisms for amplifying women's visibility and voice, such as women's wings. Third, there are changes in the culture of politics to normalize women's presence among decision makers. For instance, as one of our interviews stated, something that is beginning to change in Colombia is that the male and female duo for president and vice president for candidates begins to be seen as obligatory, that it has parity. In other words, gender parity is becoming a norm. Any efforts to sustain and increase this participation must address the constraints that were brought up by our peace activist interviewees. These include, for example, the fact that parties can act as political gatekeepers and internal patriarchal structures can limit women's influence. Women interviewed for our study stated that often political parties do not sufficiently support women candidates. This includes an inadequate amount of financial support and a lack of proper media coverage. There are also inconsistencies in the application of the quota within political parties, and there are limited repercussions for non-compliance. Violence against women. Nearly 70% of women in politics reported having faced some type of psychological, sexual, physical, or verbal violence. A study by the Misión de Observación Electoral de Colombia found that the more extreme cases of violence against women in politics were concentrated in the rural regions of the country.
For policy, programs, civil society, and intergovernmental support. Sarah, what support can UN Women provide to ensure that the National Action Plan on Women, Peace and Security is effectively implemented? And how can dedicated funding be guaranteed? Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mavic, for this important question, and indeed, Honorable Minister, Excellencies, women leaders, and colleagues. To put this into perspective, UN Women's research into the funding of national action plans on women, peace, and security has shown some interesting insights. And that is that out of 107 countries and territories that have adopted a national action plan so far, 86% had a monitoring framework and indicators, but only 26% had a budget. when they were launched. And so we know that this is one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, for the underperformance of these instruments, and also the disappointment that this can generate amongst advocates. We at UN Women are deeply invested into the development of Colombia's National Action Plan, and we have accompanied the government and civil society from the start of the peace process and throughout the preparations for this National Action Plan. We are, together with the government, most proud of the direct facilitation of the many consultations leading towards its adoption, encompassing 1,100 approximately women out of the more than 1,500 total consulted throughout these months. We will now work with the government to translate all these inputs into a concrete plan, inclusive of impact level indicators, of monitoring mechanisms, of a multi-phase implementation strategy, and most importantly, a budget. Our partnerships in Colombia and our extensive experience in supporting national action plans on women, peace, and security have told us the elements we would consider most important in this regard. Firstly, that elements of the National Action Plan must be integrated into the new local development plans. Directly following the local elections.
Importante en el proceso de consolidación de la paz. Las voces plurales que hemos escuchado esta tarde y que agradecemos lo confirma, como agradecemos además la invitación a este importante evento. El papel de la mujer en el proceso de paz en Colombia ha sido reconocido por el Ecuador en el Consejo de Seguridad y hoy en la tarde lo volverá a hacer, por lo que no abundaré en el tema. Pero sí quiero resaltar que este aporte debe ser una realidad en todos los procesos hacia el desarrollo sostenible, lo que no puede lograrse sin la participación plena, equitativa y significativa de la mujer. Los pasos que consolidan el liderazgo de la mujer no deberían ser motivo de reconocimiento, debería ser lo natural, en palabras del amigo Carlos Ruiz Maciel.
La memoria de la brasilera Berta Lutz, quien tuvo una participación pionera en el tema de igualdad de género en Naciones Unidas y que es una precursora, por tanto, de la Agenda de Mujeres para la Seguridad. Esperamos contar con la participación en alto nivel en este evento de todos los países. Muchas gracias.
Lo que vienen justamente del lugar donde estas definiciones se generan, se diseñan y se aplican. Y muchas gracias también a la Universidad de NYU por esta interesante sistematización de lo que ha sido este trabajo. Yo quiero hacer primero que mis palabras se escuchen fuertemente como un agradecimiento a transmitir esta experiencia sistematizada que de alguna manera permite, ¿no es cierto?, darnos cuenta de que el discurso de la igualdad de género y el empoderamiento de las mujeres supera absolutamente el discurso y se transforma en la gran herramienta que necesitamos para el mantenimiento de la paz. Aquí hay un ejemplo concreto, verdadero, lleno de sentido, que creo es muy importante que lo valoremos como comunidad internacional y lo llevemos a otros espacios tan requeridos como hoy día lo estamos notando.
Realmente un éxito colectivo de todos ustedes, pero sin dejar, permítanme que note también cómo las iniciativas de las mujeres han empujado enormemente este proyecto. Esto es una cosa que sabemos muy bien, que sin esta fuerza de ellas muy difícilmente se logran realmente estos procesos. Y por otra parte, permítanme, porque seré muy breve, un mensaje también de confianza, un mensaje de esperanza. Sabemos que una paz duradera, una paz estable, sostenible, no significa solamente la ausencia de violencia, pero no puede haber paz cuando hay violencia. Y este tipo de programas, este tipo de planes, todos estos esfuerzos, todos estos proyectos y acciones, yo creo que pueden si me lo permiten verlo de esta manera, también contribuir para que la violencia deje de ser una forma estructural de comportamiento y vayamos justamente a lo que ustedes han hecho también, que es este diálogo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. And now, last but certainly not the least, the representative of the United Kingdom.
They've gone about this, and the women's rights and women-led organisations for their leadership and contribution. And we in the UK are proud to have been able to support this in a very small way through UN Women, whose role we greatly appreciate too. We know that women's participation in peace processes boosts the chances of those processes being successful. When women meaningfully participate, the resulting agreement is, according to research, 64% less likely to fail and 35% more likely to last at least 15 years. So we hope that Colombia's first National Action Plan will become a real and meaningful tool for cross-government coordination to bring peace and security to Colombia's women and to contribute to the wider peace processes. And we'd like to offer continued UK support as the government takes this forward.
And the framework of cooperation between the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General on Sexual Violence in Conflict and the CEDAW Committee. Another area where the Security Council members can support is to champion localization, and I'm glad that many of them are already doing this, but we need more support, because this is the only way that the resolutions will make a difference where it matters, in communities directly affected by violent conflicts and in the lives of women and girls who bear the brunt of the conflict. Localization strategies and inclusive and participatory processes are crucial to the success of our national and international peace efforts. Cuenten con nosotras para continuar nuestro trabajo de apoyo a los procesos de paz, la implementación de los acuerdos de paz y la política de paz total de Colombia. Para finalizar, me gustaría citar el mensaje de apertura del informe del Secretario General sobre Mujeres, Paz y Seguridad. Casi un cuarto de siglo después de que adoptará la resolución del Consejo de Seguridad 1325. La participación plena, igualitaria y significativa de las mujeres en la construcción de paz debería ser la norma, no una aspiración ni una ocurrencia tardía. Gracias. And now I turn over to the Deputy Permanent Representative, Adrian Howley, for the final remarks.
Thank you, Mari. Happy to have final remarks before we let you all go, and I would like to thank you really and express my gratitude to the Colombian mission for the excellent collaboration on this event, and of course to His Excellency, the Foreign Minister Alvaro Levilla Duran, for joining us today. It's a great honor, and I would like to thank you very much, Mavic, of course, for the excellent and very spontaneous moderation, and of course all your work to make this event happen together with us. We have been collaborating for years on women, peace and security, and we value GNWP as a very trusted partner. And of course, thanks go to SRSG Massieu for being here, to UN Women to joining us as well, and of course Anne-Marie Götz and Lani Freys and all the team of the New York University for presenting their research. And finally, we are very happy, of course, that Nigeria and Henit joined us today. Thank you so much for being here, for traveling all the way from Colombia. Even the difficult circumstances on the ground, we were happy you could make it. Without you, this event would not have been possible, and we would like to thank you for all your work and efforts for peace in Colombia. And with that, I thank the audience for being here, for sacrificing another lunch, for engaging interactively with us. We know there were other interested colleagues who would like to take the floor, but we are in a constraint of time, so if you have comments, we're of course happy to take them on board, also in writing. But we very much look forward to continuing our discussions in the Security Council, but with the wider membership. So thanks so much for coming here in big numbers this afternoon. And with that, we let you go. Wish you all the best. Good rest of the week. Thank you.